Welcome everyone, my name is Bernhard Schimpelsberger and this is another Konnakol tutorial. And today I'd like to talk to you about gaps and rests and in particular how you can write them down. I've received a few messages and comments with questions, and I think those are very good questions because this is an area that's not really spoken much about, so I want to shed some light on that. In order to understand the gaps, we need to look at Konnakol and we need to understand how Konnakol in general is written down and transferred and taught. And the way I'd like to do this in all my videos really is I'd like to give you a global context and give you ideas of how Konnakol could be used in other traditions and how it relates to other traditions. Whether you played Western drum and bass or Cuban music or African music or whatever, Konnakol can give you a lot of inspiration and ideas. And yeah, let's look at it from that perspective. Okay, in order to understand the notation, let's look at the music traditions. And Indian music is an oral tradition, which means the material, the lessons are always taught from the guru to the student verbally. So guru and student in the same room, they're sitting in the same room, the guru is playing or he's singing, and the student is sitting right in front of him and needs to pick up the composition, but also all the nuances and the musical aesthetics. Okay, and the guru is teaching that by demonstrating it, not by writing it down, by playing it, and the student is supposed to hear it and pick it up and imitate it, and therefore he's learning all the details. Western music works quite differently, and especially classical music. And if you think about the big polyphonic scope there is, for example, Mozart, when he wrote down his parts, his players weren't there. He wouldn't even know who was going to play it, whether it was this orchestra, groups of 40, 50 people. So what he needed to do is he needed to specify in this piece of paper exactly what he wanted. The articulations, the length, the expressions, everything. So he could make sure that the music that was being played at a later stage would resemble what he was hearing. Now in Indian music, that never really took off that way. So notation was never that important because the way it was transmitted. Okay. Now in Western notation, for example, it's very interesting. Let's compare the two. Western notation has a lot of symbols, and each symbol has a certain value. The simplest example, note C, the way it looks, you know whether you're going to hold it for 1 beat or for 2 beat or for half a beat. For percussion, that's not even that important, I would argue, because our instruments don't have that much sustain. But for string players, for example, that's extremely important because you play C, when is that bow going to finish? You know, is it going to be a C or is it going to be a C, right? So that's extremely important. So the same way how Western notation, we have quarter notes, 8 notes, 16 notes. We also have the rests, which is a quarter note rest, an 8 note rest, a 16 note rest, and so on. So just by seeing that, we already know the length. Now comes the first fundamental difference in the way how I notate Konnakol. And as I said, because it's never really taken off, there isn't like one uniform standard system. But I've learned from various teachers, and this is something that I've come across in many ways. So the first fundamental difference is that in Konnakol, every syllable has the same length. Okay? So when you hear ta, you know how long it is. It doesn't need any specification. And the length of that is decided actually by yourself, whether you are in 8 note speed, which is 2 microbeats per pulse, or triplets, which is 3 per pulse, 1, 2, 3, 1, or 16 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Now, for example, this is my default speed. Whenever I write something down that's even, I go into 16 notes. And from there I can specify, which is another tutorial, maybe, if there are questions, how to go into double speed, for example. Okay, I can specify that, but I always know what is my basic speed. And then everything I write down has the same length. So give you a very simple example. 16 notes. We've got 4 microbeats per pulse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Every microbeat I'm going to give a syllable, which is ta. Not the most musical example, but easy to understand. Ta 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 ta. Now, how do I introduce gaps? By replacing a syllable with a comma, because that is the way how we show gaps. Comma. So let me do that. The last star is going to be replaced with a comma, so it looks like this. Ta 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 ta. I can now take the comma and shift it in various places, so you hear different rhythms. Ta 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 ta. This is a very simple way. This works very well when you have small amounts of gaps. Let's say 1 or 2. You can imagine if you have like 7 gaps, reading 7 commas would be quite difficult. So again, if you have questions about that, I'll be happy to answer that. In fact, I'm going to do another video right now where I speak about that. But before I do that, I'll do a little improvisation. And I use a musical phrase of 4, which is takadimi. And I'll put the notation up here, and then you can see how what I speak transfers into notation. And I hope that helps you. All right? So, takadimi, 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 ta. Simple versions of 4 and time stretching them. In the next video, I will show you an exercise which deals exactly with that, and which shows you how you can stretch a phrase of 4 over multiple lengths, 4 over 5, 4 over 7, and so on, by using gaps. If you want to see that, click on the video here. If you'd like to know more, if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch. I'm happy to answer them. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, say hello on Facebook, and until then, happy practicing. Bye.
Tim